Councillor Sharon Thompson. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I've been looking forward to this.
I have as well. So there's a bit of an intro to do first, I'm afraid. So you are the first female West Midlands Deputy Mayor.
I am.
You're also the current Deputy Leader of Birmingham City Council.
First ethnic minority.
Yes.
In that role.
Yes. And you've been involved with local politics for 11 years. You've served as a Labour councillor, cabinet member. You've shaped policy around homelessness. So I guess that was partly due to your kind of early experiences and what that looked like. So I don't know if you want to touch on that briefly.
Yes, absolutely. So it's well documented publicly that I was a homeless teenager in the city that I live in. I only ever had to sleep rough one night only.
That's
but
enough.
I was not resilient enough to do it anymore, and ended up going to live with St Basil's, the hostel, who years later I now work in partnership with, and their chief exec is a very good friend of mine. But when I came into politics, the whole thing for me was around, I wanted to make a difference in the homelessness space so people didn't have to face some of the adversity that I did face, and actually some of the adversity that I have seen. So it's really about how did we try to change the narrative, be more upstream, and actually reduce the likelihood of people falling into crisis in the first place.
And ended on the street even for one night.
Yeah.
Because I imagine that was a traumatic experience.
I was young,
Yeah.
so yes, in some parts it was. I think sometimes when you're younger and you're in a vulnerable situation, you don't actually realise that
how risky
and how vulnerable you actually are.
Yeah.
So actually what I've learned years later, I look back now and realise how vulnerable I actually was, and I can actually see where the parts of the system didn't actually work for me. So yes, so it's something that drove me into this space that I'm in.
And who better to talk about it than somebody who's been on the other end of it, isn't it? It gives a whole new perspective in terms of how you can advise those stages. My personal favourite, though, I'm still on your intro, by the way, is that you awarded Black Sabbath the freedom of the city. And that was just a month, wasn't it? Just before Ozzy's passing.
Yes, it was the week before the concert and a few weeks before Ozzy passed away, unfortunately. It was just an amazing thing to do. They are absolute brummies.
Yeah, through and
through. No matter where they've gone in the world, they're always championing Birmingham. And for me, I was very keen to make sure that we give the freedom of the city to people that really reflect the city.
Yeah.
In the past, not necessarily always that would reflect the people if you walk down the road. So that was very special to me. It's been talked about since as far back as 2008.
Wow.
And we've never been able to get it over the line. But after I met with Sharon Osborne about something completely different, and there was just something that she said that just kind of triggered me, that was like, okay,
I need to make this happen.
We need to make this happen.
Yeah.
And we did.
And just in time as well, like how valuable was that?
It's taught me a lot about time.
Yeah.
It's taught me a lot about not waiting and procrastinating and just getting stuff done when the opportunity's there. So I'm glad that we did manage to do that, and it was something special for the whole band as well as Ozzy. And, it was very sad when he passed away, and actually I think I probably feel it more for the family because they're really, really deeply impacted by it. But, Birmingham put its best foot forward and honoured the sons of Birmingham in the best way that they could.
And the people were out in force, weren't they?
Oh, goodness,
That's what was so magical about it, I think.
It was. People were out in force. Different partners came together once Ozzy had passed away and kind of were working really closely and being respectful of the wishes of the family. I think the thing that touched me the most was there was so many flowers and tributes, and you kind of like, what are we supposed to do with them? And there's an amazing individual from the retail bid called Steve Hewlett, and he's the most humble person you will ever find. And if you ever wanted a friend, you'd want a friend like Steve. And he kind of really took charge and came up with the idea of actually, let's get the flowers, or I can't remember the right term for it, is it mulled or something like that, but, you know, like almost like pureed, and actually got them sent over, and then they were scattered on the grounds of Aussie's grounds. So really touching.
That is lovely.
Yeah, but then that's just Brummie. That's the Birmingham way.
That's people coming together. That is people recognising their community and their place in it. It's all those things, and I kind of think that's kind of what you've brought to your office. Do you see that?
I do try to, because I'm from the city. I'm a person from the city. I don't really classify myself as what people would expect to be a typical politician.
Yeah.
I do like to get stuff done, and I'm really passionate about the city and the region. And I do try to bring that personal edge. I think because I've come from a homelessness background, I'm very much embedded in that we should be bringing experts by experience to the table as often as possible, and encouraging them to grow into different roles so that the voice is heard in different places, and not be tokenistic about the way that we work with experts by experience.
Yeah, not just bringing them in when the decision's already been made.
Absolutely.
Bring them in before the decisions
Absolutely. How it can be challenge and shape, and it might be uncomfortable, but making sure you got clarity. So sometimes, you know, you want that, we can't do that because it's not legal, it's not within the policy, or it's just, you know, financially, but being really clear with people, and actually we can't do that, but we can do this. So I think it's really important to me.
But then they gain an understanding of the whole process as well, and like it only encourages more contribution, surely. Absolutely,
it encourages more contribution, and then it also helps people to understand how the system actually works, because sometimes, you know, we go to organisations for a service. We don't necessarily understand the whole system because we've never really had to. So this just helps people to understand the system and actually how they make the system work much better for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, I don't know when you sleep, if I'm honest, with all the things you do. Do you?
I do.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
I'm so do you know, one of the things I always say that in any form of leadership, doesn't matter what sector you're in, one of the things that's most important is self-care. And self-care is the greatest form of self-discipline. Yeah. So you really do need to find the time to put your breaks in and stuff. So I do sleep.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Well, when you're not sleeping, what motivates you to jump out of bed every morning fresh because you've had a lovely night's sleep? What drives you?
So I think some of the things that drive me is, one, because obviously, like I said, I love city, society and communities. And, you know, I just think, what do I want to leave? How would I want the city and the region to feel like for my future grandchildren or great-grandchildren? Do you know what I mean? It's about how do we leave it in a better place? So, you know, I get fuelled by getting things done. Yeah. And I get fuelled by making things better or making a difference for the people that we're actually serving. Otherwise, what's the point? Why are we here? Yeah. So that kind of social justice and, you know, helping people to get to a place of stronger social mobility really are the kind of things that drive me on a day-to-day. I have an amazing team that work around me at the council house. So sometimes when I'm not motivated to get up, they will motivate me.
Does this include like alarm clock calls or
a WhatsApp message every day?
Yeah. Where are you? Oh, and I guess they keep you on schedule as well.
Oh gosh, yeah. I've learnt a lot about myself. One of them is don't interfere with the diary. So yes.
Yeah, it took us a while to schedule this in, to be fair, but I'm glad we're here. So, you're standing down from public service in May.
I am.
Right? So, what do you feel? I guess you're going to start reflecting on that and what those last 11 years have looked like and all the things you've achieved. What do you feel like your biggest achievements were in that time period?
I would say I think my biggest achievements in the last 3 terms, I think one, through working in communities and meeting local people, I found a loophole in legislation around supported housing, which meant that you have some fantastic landlords and then you have some slightly unscrupulous landlords that were not fulfilling their support requirements. And the criteria in the legislation was what was causing part of the loophole why they could get away with it. So I worked with a couple of local MPs, Shabana Mahmood and the late Jack Dromey particularly, around looking at this, and really went on a crusade. So we did a national campaign, which I really kind of pushed with, and I had the journalists on board. I went to the LGA, I went to the homelessness charities one by one to work out who was on board and who wasn't. National Housing Federation, there was a whole range, the LGA, and then did some really localised stuff in Birmingham, a scrutiny, really pushed for a scrutiny review, and worked with the then Mayor of the West Midlands and MPs and all kinds of people to lobby for a select committee inquiry in the Commons, in Parliament, and it was agreed. I gave evidence at the select committee inquiry. I invited the committee members to Birmingham to actually see firsthand and to meet some of the people it was affecting.
Brilliant.
Tenants. Not just tenants, landlords, and also people living in the local area that it was affecting as well. And they came. And as a result of some of the work that I kind of worked as a catalyst on, some recommendations were made through the select committee hearing, and government said that they would make some changes. We did a whole top 10 and kind of went to different local authorities to ask them the ones that were having problems and the ones that weren't having problems. So if there was this change, would there be an unintended consequence? Did all that kind of work, and really pleased that the government, like I said, the government said that they were going to make some changes, and this, just before Christmas, there was some consultation taking place, and the supported housing something or other Act 2023
yes, I've heard,
came into place. So that's probably one of my biggest achievements, because it's difficult to make
I didn't know you were involved in that, Sharon.
I was the catalyst for it, so it's difficult to kind of go from an idea and a campaign to seeing it all the way through to legislative changes. So that was probably one of my most ones that I remember the most, because I know the impact it'll have on people. And in my time as cabinet member for housing, rough sleeping in Birmingham reduced by 81% under my watch.
That's amazing.
What
an impact.
I had good people working around me though.
And do you think the connection is there between the 81% and getting the housing right?
I think in terms of the rough sleeping side of it, I think it was more
a different set of
it was issues. More that we kind of changed the focus and the way we worked as a partnership, learnt lessons, and how do we get stronger partnership. And also I think we went from that kind of crisis management more to, okay, we want to get upstream, we want to get to early intervention prevention, whilst also supporting those that are already in crisis. So we was kind of like not just dealing with the crisis and there's more coming through the door.
And then just dealing with the crisis again.
Absolutely. So how do we kind of slow it down further upstream? So I think it was a lot of partnership, a lot of lessons learned, and working with different sectors. So not just looking at the homelessness sector, but actually working with universities to really kind of drill into the data and different things like that. So
and so I guess that's understanding the population, listening to the population, understanding all the partnerships that are involved, understanding the impact of those partnerships and the interplays, like the housing bit, and what's going right, what's going wrong,
being brave
and just doing it, like you say, like all of that doesn't kind of the way that you told that series of events suggests to me that you're like, right, I'm getting up to date, and I'm speaking to that person, like there is an element of just getting the job done, isn't there?
Quite a lot of that, and there's quite a lot of people around that were kind of like, that I work with, that are get the job done people. And again, like I said, it's been brave. So in the pandemic, I had housing and what did I have? I had, my portfolio was homes and neighbourhoods at the time. So I had housing, homelessness, bereavement services, and a whole other track of stuff within the portfolio. The government said everyone in. And in Birmingham we went, okay, everyone in, but let's add on for good. So how do you keep them in for good?
Yeah.
So we try to expand and see how we could wrap other things around them to try and hold them in the space more, so that especially those that have got long-term rough sleeping, so that we could actually try and keep them in more. And actually, you know, there was a couple of people that really surprised us. One person got reunited with their family after years. There was some that went into permanent home. So, you know, it's about doing more than minimal.
Yeah, and I guess for each person it was unpicking the root cause, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And making them feel valued and making them feel cared for.
Yeah, which links to all sorts of different services, because no one story is going to be the same, is it?
Absolutely.
Brilliant. And that's... we talked a lot about kind of having that target and having that goal in front of you, and you were really clear on that aim, weren't you? This is where we're getting to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the route round kind of, you found it rather than it happening, I think, is probably more the case.
It's how do we make this happen?
Yeah.
So, and everyone, making sure that you and the partners, everyone's on the same page, and everyone feels like they're taking ownership for the solution, the problem, but also for the credit of when we get things done.
What do you think your legacy is around that work? What do you think you're leaving behind? Not that you're going anywhere, but
I'm still. So I think my legacy. I'd like to think my legacy will be around some of the work that I did around homelessness, and obviously some aspects around the housing. From a people perspective, I'd like to think that some of my legacy will be that that we've embedded, or we're starting to embed, policies that sort of challenge other parts of the system more. So for instance, when we talk about sort of like, I've got economy and skills. So when we talk about building, you know, and house building, what about the people in all of that? So I keep saying, you know, you can have a lot of build and development taking place, but actually unless you've got good policies around people, that's not regeneration, that's just expensive landscaping. So, you know, it's really, you know, if we're talking jobs and skills, are we saying, okay, then that, you know, I don't know, say a big organisation comes in and they're going to do lots of regeneration, which we are seeing, which is going to impact, it's going to bring lots of jobs, but who are getting the jobs? Are we talking about in 10, 15 years' time that we actually have an ambition that that organisation will have its top team that will reflect the actual community, or be largely made up of people from the city and the region, rather than, you know, some of the, because as you go through an organisation, once you get further up and people have got the experience, it's hard to find those people locally. So for me, it's about trying to put systems and frameworks in place that can actually help to drive that ambition, so that in the future we have more people that are really qualified in the city to do different things. They like to live in the city, and I always say that Birmingham should be the city of choice. Should choose to live here, should choose to be educated here, should choose to run your business from here, invest in the city. And I want that to be a reality for most people. So I would like putting the building blocks into place to be part of my legacy. So I might not see the fruits of the labour in my time, but actually being able to plant the seeds and actually see that in generations to come that it made a difference.
And I think you have done that. I think there's an element of like pride in where you come from and those things, and I think it links quite well with the neighbourhoods, the 10-year plan things about bringing things back locally. I think it's the kind of globalisation of things that have diluted people's identity as to where they're from, and having kind of ownership and responsibility towards that area and all of that stuff. And I think you've started that.
Totally. So one of the things that I'm leaving behind is I've led on the place-based strategy, which really is that looks at, okay, the city geographically, and actually if we do a development there, how is that going to unlock that bit of the city? How is that going to bring a new industry in and that we're going to be known for? And, you know, is it going to be a catalyst to jobs? How does the transportation and all of that work? What does that mean for the heritage of the city? What does it mean for communities? So some really exciting stuff. But I think with my portfolio, Economy Skills, it's one of those portfolios that you don't necessarily see all the benefits for straight away. So on one of the schemes, we've got sort of like a 22,000 pipeline for jobs but you're not going to see those
No.
overnight until it's built. So, yeah.
And I guess that's the challenge of any kind of any politician, is that you don't know how long your window is to affect that change. So it's almost like you have to get in those foundations, don't you? And then hope that the next person taking the mantle will follow that through.
Absolutely. But I think because of I had a really good ward colleague called Carl Rice, and Carl was saying to me, there's only a number of ways that you leave politics, Sharona, because he used to call me Sharona. There's a number of ways you leave politics, Sharona, and the best one is to decide when you're going and pick your moment. And that's what he did. And I always said I would do 3 terms, and I came towards the end of the 3rd term and I was like, shall I do 1 more term? I was like, no, you said you was going to pick your moment, go.
Yeah.
And I think that not many politicians get to pick their own sort of sell-by end date. So that then helps me to focus on, okay, these are the things that I really want to achieve before I go, which means a lot to me.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. So thinking about local authorities in general, or particularly Birmingham City. Well, we'll start with Birmingham and then maybe open it out.
Yeah.
What do you think? I think there's a lot of nervousness. I mean, you've seen some challenging times during your period there, but there's a lot of nervousness as to what's ahead for local authorities and what that looks like. There's lots of change happening at the moment. Do you see, when you look to the future for most local authorities, particularly Birmingham, are you hopeful or nervous, or a bit of both?
I think there's a bit of both. I think over the last how many years, local government has taken a hit across the piece. We've seen cuts across the whole sector, but also on the flip side of that, local government is set up to serve people, and what we're also seeing is whilst we're having cuts, as are many other sectors, we've also seen that need and demand has gone up as well. So it's not like you've got less money and less need, you've got less money and more need. So that's been going on for some times, and I know that we've had sort of change in governments, which means there's going to be there is changes in the mindset towards local government, and I think we've been quite fortunate because they've been very engaging, but at the same time you can't take away from the fact that the sector's pretty much been on its knees for the last 10 years or so. So I think one is the concern that people's expectation that a magic wand was going to be and it was going to go and then you've got the other aspect of it is that a lot of services have been cut to the bone. Local government's been cut to the bone. So I think there is a nervousness around the future of local government. We're seeing more councils falling into financial difficulty, so there's more about value for money and other aspects around that. And I think also the other side of it is, like I said, the needs are going up of local communities, people in communities. So I think whilst there's an element of nervousness, there's also a grand piece of opportunity, and I think it's an opportunity for many of those like myself that's in local government to rethink how local government does business. Once upon a time, I remember in the good old days. I mean, I've been a councillor for 11 years, but I was a council officer for 10. So I remember in the good old days with different funding pots and it felt quite grants. Ooh. And you could do some of the really lovely stuff and the good stuff, whereas it's not quite like that now, and the relationship was very much people often saw, or services and organisations often saw councils as the commissioners space, whereas now we've got to move more towards, we've got to deliver the day-to-day services, but we've got to move towards more that facilitator space. More leaning to more, we are the custodians of our borough or of our city, and pick up more in that kind of like collaborative leadership space than we probably had to do previously. So I think there's lots of opportunity, but I think there's also a huge amount of opportunity for us to look at innovation and doing things differently, because when it comes to innovation, I think, in all honesty, if we're honest, public sector are probably sometimes we're a bit behind the times when it comes to innovation and systems and things that happen, whereas private sector, they just make things happen.
And just do things quicker.
And do things quite quicker.
It's a bit
bureaucracy and
there's
stuff.
more to bring with you, isn't
Yeah.
there?
So I think at the moment, I think there's loads of opportunity to do more innovation, to learn more. AI is going to be a big thing. Digital world's going to be a big thing. Tech's huge. But we've got to find solutions and work more with other agencies to create those solutions that will make a difference to people.
Yeah. And it's that, how do we bring community into this conversation, isn't it? Like you say,
Hugely.
rather than us looking to local government to fix the problem, actually, how like they might be the, like you say, the facilitator of the solution, but actually only in a sense that they need to look to the population, the citizens, what we've got around them, and make sure all this thing's working.
Exactly. Where are the local solutions that help people so that they don't need to come to the system as often with a problem? Because, you know, we're kind of looking after things within communities and stuff. So I think there's an aspect of that. Definitely.
Yeah, and a thriving community, that's
what thriving communities are all about.
Doesn't need as much crisis management as we're currently seeing.
Definitely.
Makes sense. Whose job then do you think it is to care?
I think it's all of our roles to care. I think care in the compassionate sense, and then care in terms of social care, the two different in the health space. I think we really need to think about the whole ecosystem. And how everybody almost slots in. So I always talk about it in the sense of it's a bit like a jigsaw puzzle, and everybody's got their part to play. And it's just about how we learn better to collaborate and create the space to understand what each other's do. One of the biggest frustrations that I've had in any part of any portfolio that I've held in any part of local government really is when the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. And then you think, oh wow, you're doing that, oh my gosh, that will help us so much. And it's just about freeing up the space and time to do some of that stuff. I think the thought leadership space is really important, because that's when a lot of innovation and understanding where people are doing things that really come into it. So I think it's everyone's responsibility to care. I think every organisation needs to be more intentional about how they care and how they go about caring and their relationships. And also I think we've got to be better at enabling communities to voice their needs, but also be some of the architects of their solutions. Yeah,
absolutely. Because you find, we were talking to somebody the other week and they'd come up with an idea about their own mobility. And actually, who else is going to come up with that answer than the person that's struggling with that thing? Like it was just a really obvious, simple solution about, you know, dexterity and gripping items. But actually,
and that's their life.
Exactly, they're living it. They're in the best position to understand how to move beyond that and what would help. So, absolutely, I agree with that. And I guess it is about that intentional design. When you, in a lot of your work with the homeless, you talked about designing out, didn't you? Designing out homelessness. And that is about intentional systemic change, surely, and about creating those building blocks that would enable that.
Absolutely. So designing out, again, another Jean Templeton one. So we're wired very similarly. But designing out homelessness was really around the whole concept, really, that, you know, there's two different types of factors. Then if you've got too many stacking up against you, you're more likely to fall into crisis. Individual, as I said, you know, drug and alcohol, or, you know, you've been exposed to domestic abuse or something. Them are all personal things in the personal space. And then on the other side, it's the structural things. So not being able to have access to good schooling, not being able to get to good medical or waiting lists or all of those things are structural. But sometimes we focus always on the individual and not the system. So how do we change the system to enable people to thrive more? So that's what designing out homelessness is all about. How do we create and systemic change in a way that will help to reduce the numbers and impact people's lives for the better? And we always talk about inclusion, but always say inclusion with the capital I and the capital N in terms of in. how do we keep people in that space, in the universal space? So yes, that's what the whole concept around designing out homelessness was and is. And we kind of, in the West Midlands, had a plan on a page. And again, we were really clear about what does the actual pathway look like? When do people tend to fall off the pathway? And what do you need to put them back into that universal space? And that was part of the objective for us. And a lot of it, again, through policy, through service design, and the whole aspect of we want to design out homelessness.
Yeah, and that's where you get your 81%.
Absolutely.
Amazing. I think we can probably take examples from abroad as well, can't we, when we're looking at that kind of intentional systemic change. I remember hearing about, when we think about the ageing population that we need to support and what that looks like, I think sometimes culturally we're just not as geared up as other countries to deal with that. And I know there was one example in Japan where they were supporting, so university students were in the same accommodation as their elderly population, so that it was a nice kind of solution really to the fact that they know that they need to support more elderly people. How can we galvanize the community around us to do that? They sit, there's kind of almost like terms and conditions, like the expectation of what you need to do in order to be a good citizen in that situation. Absolutely. So to live in that building as a student and get, I think it's either cheap or either free or really cheap accommodation, which everybody will want at that age. Then you need to sit and have a meal with your elder and community every night.
I've seen some great examples like that.
It's brilliant, isn't it? It kind of
is.
Resolves the whole social isolation thing. There's a kind of expectation that people are just looking out for and doing the little low level bits, helping with the shopping, helping somebody with the front door, I'm not sure how to pay my bills. All of those bits are no longer on the system to deal with. Have you heard any other kind of international examples like that?
I've had some really good examples. So being the housing geek that I was, I got really excited about going to a housing festival in Europe.
Oh, right.
Sounds good. The weekend. I want to go to a housing festival. So I got really excited about going to a housing festival in France. And there were some incredible examples of just that. And I remember one of them was very similar to the one that you just talked about. And there was a building and they had a couple that sort of acted as the custodians of the building.
Okay, yeah.
And they had people living in there that was from they were in their career, but kind of early career, kind of not long moved
young professionals,
home. Young professionals, younger than me. Young professionals. So it was those young professionals. And one of the principles was that you had to all, there was, obviously you had your own space, but you had communal space and you was expected to kind of interact and utilise that, have meals together. And the couple that acted as the custodians, as their rental agreement for being there was to also act as mentors to those people in there. Yeah. And they came from they've had their career.
Yeah.
So how can you kind of impart some of your wisdom and knowledge and stuff? Yeah. So I think that was a really good example, and probably something that would stop with those younger people for life.
Yeah.
What they've learned and built friendships. So I think that was one of the really good examples.
It's valuing the different generations, isn't it?
It's definite. That intergenerational is just exceptional, I think. And before I came into... wasn't before I came into politics. I was still a councillor, but before I went into the cabinet, I used to work for a national charity called Volunteering Matters, who I think are totally amazing and absolutely love them. And one of their flagship projects is actually called Grand Mentors. Oh, right. And what it is they get older people who probably are grandparents or great grandparents. They've had a career, or their families have all grown up and they just want to kind of give back. And they're assigned to, or they matched with, a care leaver. So a care leaver that's just come out of the care systems, kind of going into the adulting world, where it's very different. Once, got everything wrapped around you in the system, and then
now you're gone.
You're gone.
Out you go. Out the door. Good luck.
Out there in the big wide world.
Yeah.
And they match them with a grand mentor who kind of acts as a friend, kind of I wouldn't say a grandparent, but they give them that kind of wisdom,
It is
knowledge
that
and
kind
support.
of feel, though, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, and they build a whole kind of package around themselves, around the things that they want to target. What are their goals? Some of it, you know, they can do some sort of social activities together, bowling or whatever else, but also get that kind of support that many people would get in the family network that they actually don't have.
Yeah.
So I think that intergenerational work, I don't think we do it enough.
No.
I don't think we value it enough.
Yeah.
I think the older generation's got so much more to give, but we just need to create the space and the projects and the infrastructure for those things to take place.
And I guess that's where local government commissioning, when we talk about them moving into that facilitation role,
Absolutely.
it's about creating the systems, creating the structures, the ideas that can then be replicated at scale.
Absolutely.
And people can it's matching people, isn't it?
It is. And if I think of like sort of like Grand Mentors, that project, I've seen that project take place all over the country, from Scotland, Wales, all over England.
That's amazing.
And it's them working with local councils. So it can be done. And I just think we need to transfer some of that thinking more into that kind of care space.
Yeah, agree.
To enable people to live, you know, give more people more dignity and live more, just thrive. Just thrive in local communities and in their home.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you move it from those kind of idea stages into scale? Because Birmingham's a massive city, isn't it? Over 1 million, is it?
Yeah, it's
Population,
1.1 million. So I think we're the largest local authority in
Yeah.
Europe.
Yeah.
So
How do you scale those ideas? So when they come, like, okay, I can do it with one neighbourhood. Like, how do you make it happen across the board?
I think I think it depends who the partner is.
Yeah.
So it's about, has the partner got the capacity, capability to scale something? If the council don't, because if it's not our bread and butter, then, you know, there's no point us trying to master it and then mess it up. So it's about being clear on the partnership. I'm a great believer and advocate for a pilot. I like to see things piloted so we can kind of test, is that working well or not, and then look about then how do we scale it and think about financially how does that match up. I think the other thing is with devolution, the model of combined authorities also helps to aid some of that.
Yeah.
So you can have something really good, and I've seen it already. I've seen an employment project that was being piloted between the NHS, the council, and another organisation. It was really brilliant in another part of the region. I won't say which one, just in case I get it wrong. But in another part of the region, and then it went so well that then we then started to have conversations with the combined authority about, this is really having an impact. This is the data. This is what it's demonstrating. Is this something that can be scaled, and can we introduce it to other local authority areas? So I think actually working with combined authorities actually makes it a lot easier to have that kind of regional footprint and space.
Yeah. So we've got kind of two things at play. We've got thinking more locally to give me an identity and feel part of my community and feel a responsibility towards my community, whilst also operating in a
regional space.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we can share ideas, not replicate, not waste time and resources.
Absolutely. And keep it in that kind of like, that helps you get to the bigger picture. And the mayor has a huge role in that facilitation side of it, because you'll find that, you know, other businesses and things will come forward and bring innovation in a way that they wouldn't necessarily to a local council.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good. And I think the other side of that, when we start talking about upscaling, it's upscaling the delivery, but then also, okay, what does that mean for policy? And I think the really good thing at the moment is that the mayors across the country now all meet on a collective with the Prime Minister and with also the Secretary of State. So that also then gives another opportunity to start, okay, this is really good. How do you share practice across different spaces and geographical spaces, and actually how can you send in, you know, legitimately provide case study and ideas that can affect national change and can be used for things like select committee hearings and other things like that.
Yeah, brilliant. In all of this, it's about bringing people together, isn't it? That's what I'm hearing. That your role is to facilitate those connections in order to start thinking together, start working together.
It's all that facilitating. It's also the decision making in the role as well. I have to sign off quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah, I imagine.
So
you've got a good pen.
Yes, it's about that scrutiny role and kind of, really being curious about some of the things that are coming in front of you. So even like, Ladywood is a £2.2 billion 20-year regeneration programme. So it's complex, it's big, but also that level of partnership that we've got with them is one in a sense where not everybody's going to be happy, but it's one of those that's in a sense that we can really push boundaries a little bit more. Okay, well, what does that mean for local people? Well, can we have this? Actually, it's not necessarily fundamental to the bill, but actually if we just invest in that centre there, it's going to mean a huge deal to the local community and the infrastructure. And actually, how can we get support, and how are you having involvement, and how are we bringing others in? So I think it's really a complex role, and it's difficult at times, but it's absolutely well worth it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
What do you think good care is going to look like in a few, let's say 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah. So I think.
What's your vision for the future for care?
I think for care, again, I think the whole sector is in pretty much the same space as how I describe local government. It's, it really has taken a hit, and because need just keeps on going through the roof. Yeah. So I think there's opportunities to do things differently, and I'm not talking about capitalism, but I'm talking about how do we make systems more equitable, more innovative, more ability to scale, but also making sure that we've got national, local and regional policies in place that act as enablers and regulators, so we've got a good standard, but do not strangle innovation.
Yeah.
Which I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think so. And innovation comes from trying things out, making mistakes, being quite agile.
Absolutely.
Being fluid, being flexible, listening, learning,
Absolutely.
trying again. Like how we all learn, really. It's the way that we all learn skills.
And that's why I always say that comes from making brave decisions. Yeah. Everybody can make a difficult decision, but not many people will make brave decisions.
Good point.
So that's about making brave decisions. So I think in terms of care as a sector, obviously I won't get into the whole NHS and everything else debate, and I think that there's a lot to be done there. But I think I think we have to get back to the position of one, enabling communities, and two, resetting the boundaries around responsibility for care and what that actually looks like. And I think also the holding to account of services that are delivering that have not been delivering well.
Yeah, brilliant. So what's next for you, Sharon? Do you know this? Everybody keeps asking you this, don't they? You're going to have a sleep. Although apparently you sleep already, which I don't believe.
So everybody keeps asking me this, and actually it's quite interesting because I announced earlier on in the year that I was stepping down at the next election, and since then I've heard so many things about my career path. Honestly, I'm a chief exec, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, doing this. I'm like, I wish somebody had told me.
Going on holiday, maybe. You could do that.
I could do that. Just done that, but yeah, I could do that. So yes, I think the next bit for me is I really love the strategic piece. I really do love helping organisations to kind of find their strategic space and how to kind of like get the best and mobilise and move forward if it's for the greater good of people. Hugely still love housing and sort of like that built environment, coaching and training and everything else. So I'm sort of picking the best bits at the minute. So yes, I'm definitely going to step in more into the consultancy space. Particularly around looking with organisations that do more around the whole social value and also enabling people. But I'm not going to lose sight of the built environment. So housing will definitely be a part of that picture.
Yeah. And I'm sure you'll have lots to offer there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Be exciting.
Yeah, well, new chapter.
New chapter. Someone said to me the other day, they said, what does it feel like starting again? said, I'm not starting again.
No.
I'm starting wiser.
Yeah.
There you go.
You're standing on the history of everything you've done today, aren't you? So
Yeah, that's
good.
it. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to a new chapter.
And still in Birmingham, I'm assuming.
Still around the West Midlands, still around Brum.
Yeah.
It's my home.
Yes.
So yes. So I'm
Good.
looking forward to a new chapter.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Oh, thank you very much. I've enjoyed it.
Good. I'll see you soon.
See you soon.